My name is Chad Strop, Lucky Tramp Kustom. This is my 2005 Road King shotgun. It started with just lowering it. I started out air ride shocks in the rear, adjustable, and I threw some 2-inch drop progressive springs in the front, and that got it down, but I just didn't have the stance. I wanted that tail dragger stance, so the rear needed to be a lot lower. I like it like when they're parked. I always kind of like, even if something's on the ground, I try to keep it have a little bit of a tail dragger stance to it. So I ended up pulling the swing arm, and I had to radius the sides of the swing arm. I kind of had to radius it. I cut them to clear the down tubes, and I put some 1/4-inch plate in there so it would miss the down tubes of the frame. And then I found out if I just turned the swing arm upside down, I would get another inch out of that. So when that happened, I cut everything off of the swing arm that would hold the brake caliper. And a good friend of mine, Brian Dady, who owns Motorcycle Clinic, came over and taught me a trick on how to swing my caliper upside down and make all that work. So I did that and ended up getting it on the ground. Mike came over, and we just spent hours working on this together, like after hours. And so we had a fender issue, and just to save money, being a fabricator and a body and paint guy, I ended up just taking my factory fender and I cut the center section out, had a tip on that, and kind of gloved it over the tire. And then Mike had an old fender that was kind of crashed up, hanging on his fence, so he gave me that. It was a front fender for a Road King, actually same fenders that we have, and I capped it. And once I capped it and I got the clearance to come down to make sure that the tire wasn't gonna hit and it was gonna lay down, then I extended the tail. So I found old, I think, what was it, a Dyna fender, and extended it. You know, a clockwork fender is like $700, so I ain't really got it like that, and I could build one, so I built one. Mike and I just slowly just started putting it together and making sure that the fender was gonna lay on the ground. I wanted to make sure that the back of the fender was gonna lay when the bike laid. The front, I put the 2-inch progressive springs in it, and I ended up taking the short springs out, and that bushing, everybody knows that PVC kind of bushing, and I just drilled holes in the big nuts that go on the top of the fork. Just drilled a hole on my drill press, and I tapped that. I put just a quick connect air fitting in it, and I just turned my shock into pretty much an air strut, essentially. It's kind of a low budget build. The next thing I want to do really is I want to cut these bags, and I want to try to get the bags to hit the ground when she lays. But now in my mind, I'm thinking, how much leaning room am I going to have? Because when the bike's up, my fender lays on the ground, I don't have a lot of clearance. I got to keep in my mind how much I can get away with and safely get a good lean out of the bike. I ordered just some cheap eBay seat, and the seat came up and covered like a big portion of my dash. And every time we'd ride, Mike would make fun of me, and he's just like, dude, that doesn't look right. You got something kind of coming off here. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah, it's bad. He goes, so let's cut it down. So we ended up cutting it down, and then we just folded the material under the seat. Well, when everything changed on the rear fender and everything came up, all of that geometry changed, and that seat was way longer. So I just sectioned the middle of the seat, and then I brought the seat back together, and I kind of got that angle with the pan, the glass pan of the seat. And then I fiberglassed everything back together, and then just pretty much cut the foam down, sprayed all the foam with just a really good adhesive, and just pulled it as tight as I could, and just stapled the piss out of it to get it to hang on. So I've made tons of clearance for the pulley, it was a lot to figure that out. I literally had to cut the whole down tube, and then I took a piece of 3/4 round solid stock and I faced it on my belt sander, and then I pretty much slugged it So all the material was gone is now just pretty much solid stock, but it's just faced just enough. I mean, I'm clearing that pulley, that belt by probably an 1/8 inch. So everything to get another 1/2 inch, you wouldn't believe how many times do we have that axle out?
Yeah.
60 times
At
probably,
least.
just
Oh, yeah.
in and out, in and out, in and out. Like, and then I remember even Mike saying like, dude, is it worth a 1/2 inch? And I'm just like, it is to me. And he'd be like, all right, let's take it apart. So we'd take it apart, and you wouldn't believe the hours that we spent just to get another 1/2 inch, dude. I'm like, dude, I have to lay this bike on the ground and get off of it. And there it is, no kickstand. It's on the frame and it sits, dude. Like, she's solid. You know, you'd have to kick this thing hard to make it fall over. I hope to go into paint. I just painted the rear fender black to match those aftermarket bags because I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with those yet. Like, everybody's like, are you gonna put a 21 or a 23 on it? And I'm a white wall man. I mean, I'm all about the 50s and I love white walls. So I think I'm just gonna keep it just a dual 16 setup with a fat white wall, and it's different, it's gangster. Everybody, all the Viclic guys have like 21s on it, and then I show up on a 16 with a fat white wall, and that puts me, that puts me kind of out of the majority of what everybody else is doing, and that's where I want to be. That's important to me. My dad told me growing up as a kid, he would always say, you just got to be different, don't you? And I'm 45 years old, and I'm different.